My name is Beth Podgurny, and I'm here today on behalf of my family to tell you how Alberta's long-term care system has failed our mother and is failing many other vulnerable Albertans. Our mother, who you can see pictured here, is Grace Denyer. She's 80 years old and suffers from dementia. She had a stroke in August 2011 and has a pacemaker. She is unable to walk and feed herself and has only limited speech ability. My mother was assessed as being long-term care in January 2010. What has happened to her since then is horrifying. My mother was admitted to the Youville home in St. Albert in February 2010 as long as she could somewhat fend for herself, things seemed fine. As her needs for assistance increased, the lack of care became apparent. We believe the lack of basic care contributed to her health issues, such as unrelated rashes, chronic urinary tract infections, and open and bleeding wounds in her perineum. In fact, on nearly every occasion, from podiatrist appointments to being transported to hospital by ambulance, medical intervention was only given after the family continued and repeated persistence. We met with management several times. Management had acknowledged our concerns and agreed with our issues. However, there was no evidence of improvement. In August 2011, our mother's condition took a sudden turn for the worse. Her decline was so severe that we thought she had suffered a stroke. She also suffered from bruising on one arm. For 5 days, the family tried to get the Youville to have her assessed, but no one would listen. Finally, after 5 days, our mother was taken to hospital where it was discovered that she had indeed suffered a stroke and had a fractured elbow. Why it took 5 days to have my mother taken to hospital is incomprehensible. While in hospital, our mother's peri area showed improvement. When she returned to the Youville, it began to get worse again. By December, it had deteriorated to the point that her wounds were open and bleeding, and she needed to go to the hospital for treatment. We opened a complaint with Protections for Persons in Care. At this point, the family decided it could no longer send her back to the Youville. We investigated other facilities, but other families that we spoke with had similar experiences as our own. As a result, we considered a private for-profit care home in South Edmonton. We thought this home would be our salvation, the answer to our prayers. The private home advertised for long-term care patients, including Alzheimer's, as an alternative to traditional nursing homes. They reassured us that they were capable of caring for our mother. Based on their assurances, we placed our mother into their care, even though the fees would be a constant strain on the family. Shortly after moving her into the home, the wounds in her peri area that my mother suffered for so many months had cleared up, and she settled nicely into her new environment. We signed a contract at a monthly fee of $3,495. While this was a significant financial commitment, the family felt it had no option but to take the financial sacrifices needed to ensure our mother got the care that she needed. Within days, the owner of the home began to ask for more money. She was soon demanding $4,995 a month, an increase of more than 42% within a few weeks of moving into the home. We were simply astounded. We had made it clear that we were stretched to meet the payment of $3,495, but now the private care home wanted more. Our mother's condition had not changed. In fact, it had improved. When we insisted that the private for-profit care home honor the contract that we had signed, they responded with an eviction notice to take effect March 1st. Only a matter of days. Alberta Health Services had scheduled our mother to be reassessed on March 6th. The reassessment was done, and it was determined that our mother still fit in the designation of long-term care. Even though our mother was just assessed, The private for-profit facility, just a few hours later, had her transported by ambulance to a local hospital emergency room, and we were not notified. Our mother became another statistic, another long-term care patient languishing in hospital, filling up an acute care bed. She was also forced to endure another move, another shock to her fragile system. What has happened to our mother and family should not happen to anyone. This shows that the profit motive and care are a poor mix. We found out later that the home was licensed as a group home, not as a long-term care facility. When speaking with the licensing body, it appears as if the home is allowed to accept long-term care patients or residents. The protection that the provincial government should offer its vulnerable citizens is simply not there. I do not know how to get across, and you can never comprehend the devastating and long-lasting effects this experience has had on our families. Today, my family wants answers from the Conservative government. Why is this possible for our mother and family to be treated in this appalling fashion? Why is this facility allowed to advertise for and accept long-term care residents when it is not licensed to do so? Where is the accountability? How can they increase the fees in excess of 42% within weeks of entering the home? How can the facility be allowed to dump a resident at the emergency room door? Why is the Conservative government looking to the private sector to meet the needs of our most vulnerable citizens? When we hear of talk that the cap of accommodation fees for care will be lifted to encourage more corporations to get into the marketplace, we fear the worst for Albertans in long-term care. Our story is not unique. Everyone we speak to who has experience with long-term care tells us their own horrible story. Most are just too busy, tired, frustrated, or scared to pursue their issues. The system will not be fixed unless it becomes a priority. If you have a loved one in the system and are concerned about their care, you must speak out. At the very least, let the government know, this government know, and other party leaders about your experiences and your dissatisfaction with the system and how it operates. Meanwhile, the owner of the private care home is in the process of opening another facility.